Arizona statewide shutdown, 30 days for a lot of gyms and establishments like that. So I'm curious, as they've rolled back some of those rules, how does that affect what you guys are trying to do on campus at Arizona State?
Well, right now, no students are on campus. Our players are coming in. We've got about 50 plus right about now. The next week, the freshman class will come in. So what we've done in most schools, I think, they're with the weight coaches, not with the coaches. The coaches are just on Zooms with the meetings as far as the meetings go. But the workout pattern has been small groups of players in weight training and running, and that's where we're at right now. There's a second phase to it. We haven't gotten there yet by any stretch of the imagination. And it's tough lifting. It really is. And I think the players have bought into it. Very difficult, as you know, as far as how you enter the building. You get tested, for temperature. Then they get a test once a week. If they don't show up at their test, they can't come in the building. It's a light staff in the building. Our whole staff's not even here yet. They're doing everything by Zoom. There might be 4 or 5 coaches at most in the building. So this is unusual. And I said it the first time, guys, when I was on your show, and Wingo was on vacation somewhere playing golf like your dad is doing probably today, Golic, that this is not a physical distancing sport.
Yeah.
And we're trying to find a way to manage it. And I think every coach in the country is doing the same thing.
Rody, with that in mind, just so we're clear, even though Arizona as a state has shut down these gyms, are you still allowed to work out are your players still allowed to work out on the facilities on campus?
We are. We are. And it's a light crew, as I said, and we've been monitoring our players. And they're doing a fabulous job of doing that. I think the thing that people don't realize is this. We talk about the athletes, but in college football especially, when you think about it, there's only 10 coaches. Well, if coaches go down, who's going to coach the team?
Yeah.
I mean, you got 110 players. You only got 10 coaches. Who's going to coach the team if the coaches go down? That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of parameters we're dealing with here. And there was one Arizona player, Coach, and I never want you to speak on behalf of anybody else's players. I understand that. But there was one Arizona player that said, if we're not allowing students on campus, why are we here? Was sort of the thought that he was allowed. So what would you say to someone who said, hey, students are allowed on campus and over safety concerns, so why are players at Arizona State and other players allowed to be on campus?
I think at the measures that we're taking, and he makes a great point because students are not on campus. It's a small selected group, and this is why you can do what we're trying to do. I mean, working out. There's only 8 guys in a group, Trey, with a strength coach, and there is social separation, even in all. So we're trying to do that, but he makes a point. When the students come in, how is that all going to look? You can like the NBA. They're keeping them in a bubble right now. It's all fun in the bubble, but eventually you got to get out of the bubble.
Yeah.
It's all protected right now, but eventually you got to go in the real world. And how's that going to look? And I think no one knows right now.
Talking to Herm Edwards with us, Arizona State head football coach here on Golic and Wingo. And Herm, with that in mind, as you've brought athletes back to campus, as you've gone through, as you said, the testing, some of these protocols here, would you say it's made you more confident in what we're getting ready to do with the upcoming season, less confident, or about where you were?
Kind of where I'm at. I think as you go through every phase, you go, okay, that's a checkpoint. But all it takes, here's the main issue. All it takes is for instance, the locker room. You guys have been in a locker room. Right now in our locker room, you can't have 2 starters by each other in the locker room. Because if one guy's infected, the other guy's out too. So now you got to separate the locker room. We got to use 2 locker rooms. We have an adjacent locker room where the visiting locker room is. We're going to put 40 to 50 players in that one because we're trying to space it out. And you can't have 2 starters sitting together.
Yeah, I mean,
there's so many things you got to think about every day, rightly so, because we're trying to protect the players. And here again, I'm trying to protect my coaching staff and all the players that deal with coaches. How about what if your trainers go down?
Yeah, I mean,
how does that work? I mean, so all these things, people don't realize this is a lot of stuff going into this because you're trying to protect everybody.
Well,
rightly so.
There certainly are. I mean, Ravens head coach John Harbaugh said the restrictions the NFL has been putting on it to try and work out with the virus are basically humanly impossible. And then you multiply that by a bunch because you got a lot more players on a college team than you do on an NFL squad. But Herm, you mentioned the coaches, and I find that interesting because the NBA, as they're going back into that bubble, raised some concerns about some of the older coaches in the league. The two names they brought up were Greg Popovich with San Antonio, Mark D'Antoni in Houston. You are in better shape than almost every human alive. People just don't understand that about Herm Edwards, okay? He gets up every day and attacks the day like nobody I've ever seen get up and get ready and go through their workouts to get going. But you are also a guy, Coach, who's in his 60s. So when you hear the stats with this virus and that it does tend to skew more dramatically at some points towards older people, what is your level of concern not only about your players but about yourself in this process?
Well, I'm aware of that, but I'm aware of the fact that what's more important to me, Trey, and this is my family, is my girls and my wife.
Right.
And I've already had discussions with Leah that if this thing continues to go, that I might not, if they come to Arizona, they're in Carmel, obviously, right now at the house, Trey.
Right.
And if they come here and the school starts for the girls, that's one thing. But if they go online, they'll stay in Carmel. If school does start for the girls, they will come here, and I might stay next door at the hotel because I don't want to affect them if I get it.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a lot of things you got to think about, and my family comes first. And I'm going to protect my family. I'm going to do that. And I want all these coaches to do that.